The warmest of greetings to you, and welcome to Happily Ever Teaching. This is the podcast to help you enthrall your learners in every subject under the sun using the best teaching method known to science, storytelling. To do this, we feature special guest educators who are passionately keen for your children to become amazing and successful human beings. I am storyteller Chip Cahoon, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Rob. I teach a Key Stage 2 class just outside Milton Keynes, and I've worked throughout all the key stages.
Hi, I'm Helen. I also teach just outside Milton Keynes, and I'm currently teaching reception in Year 1.
And we're very pleased to have you, our listener, with us in our virtual school staff room as we explore personal, social health and emotional education with a witty folktale found all around the world, adapted by us to be set in medieval England. So, for all the fun and effectiveness of story-led learning, let's don our finest hats, sprinkle some fairy dust, and hang tight to our magic carpet as we dive into this week's story. Sir Fuladred wants to be strong, clever, and brave. But he's truly weak, silly, and fearful. Fortunately, he learns from Sir Lancelot that all he needs to do to become strong, clever, and brave is eat a dragon's heart. And after a little research, Sir Fuladred finds the home of the world's smallest dragon, the yew-dragon. Sir Fuladred climbed to the tree and caught the yew-dragon in his net. The yew-dragon woke with a gasp of surprise.
"What's happening?"
it said. Sir Fuladred laughed, trying to sound like Sir Lancelot. He said,
"I've caught you, and now I'm going to eat your heart. Then I won't be weak, silly, or fearful anymore. I'll be strong, clever, and brave."
The yew-dragon looked sad.
"You're really weak, silly, and fearful?"
Sir Fuladred nodded.
"That's right, but not for much longer. Soon I'll be strong, clever, and brave."
The yew-dragon shook its head.
"Oh, I'm so sorry. I really want to help you. You look so friendly. I would be very happy to let you eat my heart so you can become strong, clever, and brave. But there's a problem."
Sir Fuladred frowned.
"What's that?"
The yew-dragon said,
"I'm afraid I don't have my heart with me today. I left my heart at home."
This made Sir Fuladred cross. He wanted to be strong, clever, and brave, and he wanted to be strong, clever, and brave now. So he said,
"Tell me quickly, where is your home?"
And if you and your young learners want to find out if Fuladred makes it to the yew-dragon's home and devours its heart, you can download our sister podcast, Fables and Fairy Tales, or search our website, epictales.co.uk, for The Dragon's Heart. There you'll find a video of me telling the story that you can share with your children. And if you sign up as an Epic Educator, you'll also get a copy as an ebook or paperback illustrated by the magnificent Mario Coelho, as well as the full audiobook for you to download at any time. There are even some tips for telling the story yourself, and a whole heap of resources to go with the lesson ideas we're about to discuss, including any extra lesson ideas that we don't have time to fit into this podcast. Right now, though, let's begin our discussion with Helen and Rob here by asking, folks, tell me quickly, did you like this story?
I was nuts for it. I thought it was really good. I liked the way that the story not unraveled but went on, and you thought you knew what was going to happen, and then there was a twist at the end. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I love this story. I like any story really that's got dragons and knights and things in, but particularly this one. I think I really like the characters in it. The fact that Sir Fuladred wasn't the most admirable of characters, main characters mainly. even at the end when you think it's all coming good, he still wants to eat the dragon's heart.
Oh, what, when he's got to the tree, you mean?
Yes, when he's got to the tree.
Yeah.
At that part, he's still. I think I like the development of that character and the way the little dragon helps him out.
But I suppose we have to give him some due for the fact that he is a knight, and that's where a lot of the pressure on him comes right at the start, isn't it? He's trying to conform at the very beginning, and that's what's really driving him. He's trying to be the sort of knight you would expect to see in a folk tale, and it's only about halfway through that you realise you don't really want him to be that. You want him to be something else, please, thank you.
Yeah, and that's another aspect that I really liked about the story, that you could see there's a lot of things to explore in the story about who are your role models, who are you choosing to be friends with, who are you choosing to spend time with. And it might not always be the most obvious people that you should actually be learning from. In fact, in this case, it's a dragon. So,
well, yeah. So is that the PSHE that you found for us for ages 4 to 7?
Oh, yes. As it happens. Yes, it is.
What a beautiful segue.
Yeah. So actually, yes, on my little planning sheet, I've got an activity that's kind of entitled Choose Your Friends Carefully. I thought you could have images or representations of the characters in this story, the dragon, Sir Fuladred, Sir Lancelot, and just talk to the children about each of those characters to start with, and why perhaps Sir Fuladred wants to spend time with Sir Lancelot, why he wants to be like Sir Lancelot, why he looks up to Sir Lancelot, because he does have reasons for wanting to be like Sir Lancelot. But then look at the other characteristics that Sir Lancelot has that maybe we might not want to have much to do with, we might not want to emulate in our own lives. It'd be good to look at when that changes in the story, when he realizes that actually there are better ways to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, we've got a folktale here which is very much whole school friendly. So the characterization of Sir Lancelot is very similar to what you might say of, say, Gaston in Disney's Beauty and the Beast, yes. I'd say. But is this something that you picked up for ages 7 to 11, Rob?
Yeah, the activity that I thought of was, I was going to call it Let the Right One In.
Okay.
So thinking about your friendship groups and why you should want to be friends with them. So kind of exploring the characteristics of the characters we've got in the story and how they behave and like that. So just to really get the children thinking about almost like the choices that they make in their friendship.
I mean, the reason I came to you on this topic is because the real character of Sir Lancelot that you find in the sort of King Arthur saga, again, he sort of epitomizes what we all expect a knight should be. He's the heroic one who's going off to save all of the damsels and kill all of the bad guys. But he is also the one who starts a love affair with King Arthur's wife. He has some major flaws in his character. Exactly. Not something you would want to really encourage your children to follow in. So I wondered whether with older children, perhaps you might actually start to explore some of the other portrayals of Lancelot and bring some of the other conversations surrounding who...
Yeah, I think you probably would with their older children, like the upper end of Key Stage 2, say your 11-year-olds, 10 and 11-year-olds. You might do it with slightly younger children, but you'd have to water it down. And again, obviously it depends on the makeup of your class and what kind of, not what kind of children, but where your children have come from and what they've been through. And as we've said quite often, you've got to gauge the activity based on your class. You know them better than we do.
Yes, absolutely.
I think an aspect of everything we've been talking about that's quite interesting is why in the story Sir Fuladred does look up to Sir Lancelot, and link that to actually why we do look up to other people, even though they might not be the kindest, friendliest people, why we still look up to them, and actually how to recognise if maybe they're not genuine people behind that. I don't know if that makes sense. There's a bit in the story where Sir Lancelot laughs, but not in a nice way. And I think it's something to help the children to recognise. I thought I picked up on that line, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk to the younger children, or the older children as well. What's that mean? Not in a nice way. Why would someone laugh? Not in a nice way, just to help them have some more awareness of maybe when people aren't being necessarily genuine.
So this would be a very much discussion-based activity.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's the way I would do it.
Yeah, lots of discussion, but also role play, I think, I'm thinking of younger children sort of setting up scenarios with role play going on, with people saying different things. Like it would probably be the adults saying things in different ways, laughing, not in a nice way, acting in certain ways and getting children to decide, actually, do they want to spend time with this person? Do they not? Yeah, I think I'd approach it that way.
And I think if you are going to be looking at this with role play, then that also gives children a chance to practice doing things nicely.
Yes.
So that if they are one of those children who just happens to have a habit of laughing not in a nice way, and they start to find following this activity that fewer people want to be around them, it gives them a chance in a sort of safe space to practice their laughter in a nice way, or
saying sorry in a nice, genuine way. This kind of thing.
Exactly. Something that we often mention when we're training teachers on using stories for PSHE is how you can sort of refer back to the story later. If you find yourself in a one-to-one or a one-to-two moment with children following an argument in the playground or something like that, you can ask them, you can refer to the story and ask them, who do you think you were being there? Were you being Sir Fuladred, Sir Lancelot, or the Yew Dragon? And it gives them something that they can sort of pin their behaviour onto in a sort of way that both distances, so that they don't necessarily see that this is all on them. This is something that has been observed in other human beings and other characters throughout history. So that there's that nice bit of distancing that allows them to really think about the action apart from the personal action that they've taken. But it also then allows them to come back to their own personal action, relate that to who they would actually rather be, and just pick the right actions that they've got going forward.
I really like that idea, and as you were talking, I've got in my head an image of, like, on the classroom wall having an image of Sir Fuladred, Sir Lancelot, and the dragon, with the kind of who are you going to be today, so that the children have got a very visual representation of that and come up with some of those descriptions that they might have come up with in the PSHE lessons for each character, and then have that to refer to encourage certain behaviours.
Do we have any other PSHE for ages 4 to 7?
I do. It's slightly linked, but slightly different. I've called it the power of kind words.
Oh.
So there's clearly in this story, there's kindness and there's unkindness. And I was struck at how when the dragon towards the end decided to be kind, I mean, it's more his actions, but it was also the words he said to others. Basically he used his words and his actions to make Sir Fuladred's life better. He had a choice to make. And then he felt sorry for Sir Fuladred, and he chose to use his actions and his words to make his life better. And I often talk to the children in my class about the effect that kindness has on other people and how it can actually change them as well as you. And I thought this was a really nice illustration of that, how actually the dragon choosing to be kind, essentially, made Sir Fuladred's life better.
Arguably, it made everyone's life better because it also got the demagogue dragon to disappear and leave the forest alone. So think how many lives he's saved by that small act.
We quite often have an assembly each week that's led by the children, and quite often they want to talk about different acts of kindness that they've spotted, like the ones that have had an impact on not just one person, but a greater number of people. And you can tell when they're bigging up the person who's shown the kindness, because it's like spotting kindness in other people. You can see that it means something to that person, but also the other people who were affected by the kindness as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just sort of along those lines, I think I've talked about this before, the actually getting children to practice saying kind things to each other, getting them to practice giving each other compliments, getting them to practice complimenting each other's work. That's something I've been trying to get the children to do recently, is to sort of look at each other's work and say, oh, I really like that. I really like the way you've done that. Or that's a really good word you've used in your writing. And as Rob was saying, the effect on those children that have received the compliment, but also if I'm there and I overhear and I say to the first child, you really made your friend's day by saying that. What a lovely thing to say. It makes them glow as well. So sort of all about spreading the kindness and the compliments.
And this is the perfect story to get that started. As we move up the school, though, towards ages 7 to 11, did you find anything else here for that range, Rob?
Yeah, I picked up a couple of things, and one of them is linked to the same part of the story when the dragon goes, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been quite so unkind. And as Helen was saying, talking about the dragon used its actions to reverse that. I was thinking with the older children, you could look at, even if you do make the wrong choice or you say the wrong thing or you do the wrong thing, you can like kind of counteract it by doing the right thing. choosing to make a better choice. Say I would use that part of the story to emphasize that, use that as a role model, and then I would set scenarios with my classes, not my glasses, but my classes.
You'd probably need both.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah. Just to get them to talk through and model how that could look, and then say, okay, like everyone makes mistakes. If you do, how can you solve that without having to ask an adult to come and intervene? How can you become more resilient? How can you solve these problems by yourself without having to rely on other people to solve that problem for you? So I thought that was
Although I'm interested by the fact that you are sort of describing the Yew Dragon's earlier treatment of Sir Philadred as a mistake, because let's not forget, he does that in order to escape alive. Otherwise, the alternative would be for Philadred to eat his heart.
Yeah, all the way through the forest, that's fine. But then to get to the tree and fly up and go, no, you can't have my heart. It was inside me all the time. How
it's
silly
the that you think he's apologetic for.
He was slightly, I mean, obviously he was saving his own heart, his own skin, his own heart. But he was taking advantage of poor Sir Philadred the whole way through, wasn't he? He picked up on the fact that Sir Philadred was not the smartest of knights. But he
used it for a free ride home.
Yeah. And then I picked up one other character trait of Sir Philadred right at the end, which I would discuss with the children as well, because when he gets back to the castle and everyone's going, oh, wow, you killed 2 demagogues. He doesn't say, no. He just rides with it.
Not me.
True.
Is honesty always important, would be my question.
That's a really good discussion, isn't it? Because all the Sir Philadred's new reputation is actually based on
a lie.
Complete mistruth. So that'd be a really interesting discussion to have. Is it okay? Because it definitely improved Sir Philadred's life and it made a lot of things a lot better. So that would be a really interesting discussion.
And I love that you picked up on that, because, of course, that is something that you don't usually find in the version of this folktale that is all around the world. I mean, most of the versions of this tale involve something like a monkey and a crocodile, and the monkey gets a lift from the crocodile and manages to protect its heart through very similar means. But there's nothing in those stories which is like the follow-up. We put that follow-up in this story just because it seemed to, like you say, it meant that at the end you were both rooting for Sir Philadred and the Yew Dragon. But you're right, it does raise that interesting dilemma about, is Philadred right to have rolled with it and recognized so quickly that this was probably the Yew Dragon trying to help him. I think that's why I always add another little coda, which is what he does with this situation. He doesn't just go back and start saying, oh, look at me, I'm the greatest. He says, okay, well, I've got this money now. I better get some sword fighting lessons. I better get some proper teaching. I better help my friends who are actually good at heart to be as good on the outside. And so he tries to make wise decisions to offset the fact that he accepts a lie. Is that fair?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. This is why I like the character of Sir Philadred so much, because actually there's quite a lot to him, and there's quite a lot to the choices he makes, the good and bad choices he makes, the way he changes over the course of the story. I think there's a lot to discuss, a lot to get out of that character.
Fab. That's sadly all we have time for in this episode, folks. If you'd like to talk to us about anything you've heard in this podcast, or if there's a subject you're soon to teach that you'd like us to cover, you can find us on social media using @TeachHappily, or leave us a review using your favourite podcast app. Please also share this podcast with your colleagues and help us start a story-led revolution in classrooms around the world, so children everywhere can learn in a way that's effective, memorable and enjoyable all at the same time. Tomorrow, Sir Philadred and the Yew Dragon will help us teach English. But right now, it only remains for us to say cheerio, and we hope to hear your story soon. So, cheerio! And we hope to hear your story soon.